Welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to review the open source upstream AI telemetry project, which is a research collaboration in the Mass Open Cloud, where we track OpenShift clusters and bare metal metrics and even virtual machine metrics, which is a new feature that's being developed. And we control access to the data through fine-grained access control with Keycloak. There's advanced authorization services provided by Keycloak that lets us grant specific permissions at runtime to individual users or groups. And I want to show you how that works and how the latest features help us with all that. Let's get started. So this is AI telemetry here, and you can see we have some public information about how many ACM hubs we're managing, how many OpenShift clusters we are managing across those three ACM hubs, and the number of AI-related research projects that have been going on, and our distribution of GPUs. So we have B100s, A100s, and H100s that get bigger and bigger in terms of GPU power and processing. So here's how it works. So I'm going to come into AI telemetry and it's going to authenticate me through GitHub. So you see I have a user here, Computate, that's my GitHub username, and then you can see my user groups here. So you can see I already have access to two clusters, NERC OBS cluster, which is our observability cluster, and NERC test. So I have access to two clusters, and then I have access to two projects within our production cluster. So you can see that I don't have access to all of the prod cluster, but I have access to two projects. And this is a little cut off. I gotta work around that, but um, in the UI. But here you can see these two clusters, and you can see their memory usage percentage based on how much memory they actually have allocated to in worker nodes. And so we're at like 36% for the observability cluster, which keeps pretty busy gathering logs and metrics from advanced cluster management observability and Loki. Um, so then the test cluster is a much less used cluster at 6% utilization. And you look at the CPU usage here, and you see that the observability cluster is at 14% CPU utilization, and the test cluster stays pretty low. There's a few points when it gets used over time, but that is that. Currently, no GPU utilization going on. So probably if I want to see some GPU utilization, I want to go to the prod cluster. Here's how that works. We have a Keycloak server, and I can log into Keycloak. Oops. Let's jump in and go to our realm. It's called NERC, and I can go to users. I can go, there's some UI bugs with Keycloak that need to be worked out, but I can go to my Computate user and you can see my groups. So those same groups that were here in the UI are here in Keycloak, and you see I'm part of the OBS group cluster, the test cluster, and these two projects. So let me show you temporarily the NERC OCP prod. So if I join this group and then I refresh this page, this is gonna this is gonna do a refresh token request and pull in my latest groups. So it shows me NERC prod, and now NERC prod appears in the cluster list, and I can see another bar of metrics here. So the prod cluster is hanging out around the test cluster. So the prod cluster has a lot more projects going on, but it's also got a ton more resources. So then here's some GPU utilization from the prod cluster. And and so it reports all the our GPU devices. That's mainly what AI telemetry was built for, is to track our GPUs, which are very expensive, and we want to make sure that they're in a ready state, that they don't have invalid product taint configuration, and that they're um, they're well set up for AI workloads. Now I want to go back to Keycloak and take away that prod cluster uh, access, and then I come back here and I no longer have access to the prod cluster at all. So this is fine-grained access control at runtime. It's zero trust. In fact, I could take away all my permissions and I would see nothing at all. We'll do that later on. But first, I want to show you if I go to, so if I go into the test cluster here, then I can view, okay, so it shows me the individual stats. We have to fix this graph. There's a little bug I gotta fix there to make that one show up. But here's the individual test cluster data, and I can view the projects in the NercoSpeed test cluster. So it shows me just those test cluster projects going on, including mine, AI telemetry here, and gives me some project. So what's really cool is that we have this application called the Prometheus Keycloak Proxy, and you can find it at github.com/nerc-images/prom Keycloak Proxy. Now, there was a recent pull request that I'm really proud of from Austin here, to add regular expression querying to prompt Keycloak proxy for clusters and namespaces, but it's not the complete regular expression specification. It's being able to send in a Prometheus in a PromQL query um, a match for specific cluster names that have pipe characters to OR them together to say, show me NERC OCP test or NERC OCP OBS cluster metrics. Or it can also go down to the project level, and it successfully, it like uses this cool algorithm that's this three-dimensional array of possible permissions that need to be granted and resolves them successfully. But we also have the same request going out to multiple ACM hubs at the same time to validate what clusters and namespaces does this user have access to within these clusters, and it does distributed access control checks and then returns all the data back to the UI across ACM hubs and clusters and projects. So so now we can have one dashboard that shows all projects that a user has access to in one UI. And you see all the lines on the graph here, which is really cool. This is not a current feature in Red Hat OpenShift, but this is what we're developing as an upstream project. AI telemetry and Prometheus Keycloak proxy. That's pretty cool. So, so I can see those projects. I can also go back and see the nodes in the NERCO CPU test cluster and, find out how our AI GPU nodes are doing. Guess so we haven't built dashboards for this page yet or this page, but it's got a little bit of details. So we're working on observability, and now I want to show you what it looks like if I remove all my privileges. So then I go to Keycloak and I select all of these and I leave all these groups. Now what do I see? If I come here, it says no OpenShift cluster found. I go to AI nodes. I see nothing. I go to GPU devices. I see nothing. Go to projects. I see nothing. Um, we can also grant access to all. Like if I become an admin, then I come here and refresh, and then I see all the OpenShift clusters across ACM hubs. So InnoBox Dev is an ACM hub. MOC or Mass Open Cloud is an ACM hub. The Open Sovereign AI Cloud, that's another hub. And so these are cool projects in a box dev and Open Sovereign AI Cloud where we're using an advanced cluster management hub to order clusters. That's another upstream project going on called Inabox. But they can provision clusters and then we can get observability for them at the hub level. So I don't think those clusters are actually, they were probably created and deleted, so they're not showing any metrics, but that's what they're tracking. So we have the hub level details here. So now as an admin, I have access to the hub and I can see, uh, let's see, actually, wait, hub. Oh, this is the Albany cluster. Let's see, I disabled the hub cluster view in this version of the application. But anyway, we can see all kinds of details for all the clusters now. And this is really important in a day where security vulnerabilities are are all over the place and we need to keep our applications secure. So that's what we're doing here. We're doing advanced authentication and authorization services to keep our data secure. So to learn more, you can check out our project. Let me go put these links in our webinar here. If I go to live, let's see, let me put some links in here for everybody. Check. Oh, wait, let's see. Let's find the links to in this video here. So we have our AI telemetry application in production, and we have the prompt keycloak proxy, and let me also throw in the GitHub for AI telemetry, and then some documentation that we have at OCP on NERC, docs, architecture, observability, access control to metrics. So there we go. I'll work on some courses. I'm working on making AI telemetry able to run on your own computer on OpenShift local, and so that you can be able to play with your own metrics in your own little mini cluster on your own computer. So stay tuned for more, and thanks for watching.